Welcome to week 4 of Making Small Groups Work. Now, last week, week 3, spent a lot of time on listening. Some of those do's and don'ts with listening, and really trying to make sure we don't do some of those things that really invalidate where people are coming from, and really help people share. Now, this week, we're going to kind of flip that around a little bit, and we're going to talk about actually how to give and receive feedback. Now, to kind of set this up, I want to review. We've talked a lot about this process of growth, and we said it's grace plus truth plus time equals growth. Now, let's break that down a little bit, and let's talk about feedback for just a minute. What are we talking about here with grace? That means that God is for you, God is for me, I am for you, you are for me. We have a grace orientation. So as we give feedback, we want to start from that orientation that I'm for you. And the feedback that I want to give you is really for your benefit. If we're going to speak the truth in love, really love is at the core. Love is the foundation. Love is behind this. But I want to be able to give you truth, which is reality. But I need to do it really from a starting point of grace and love. So truth is reality. Again, it's reality based in God's word. But it's really also the reality that's the of your own life, of my life, and really what I need from somebody in my group. I need somebody who can paint a picture of reality and who can help me see what I can't see. I know I have blind spots in my life, and I need folks around me to help see that, okay? And also, as we think about truth, there's some things that it might be a blind spot. Maybe I haven't thought about that in a certain way. And it could be on the positive side. Maybe there's some gifts and talents that I haven't really discovered about myself that other people can see. But there also might be some patterns in my life that I really need to I need to fix, I need to improve upon, and I need other people really to speak truth into my life. And then finally, time is all about the process. All right? None of us change overnight. It'd be nice if we could just get zapped, but that typically doesn't occur. So there's a process that we really need to walk through together if we're going to grow. As we think about feedback and we think about this grace plus truth plus time model, I want to give you a few scriptures that really lay a biblical foundation for the importance of giving feedback. We'll start off with Ephesians 4:25 that says, "Therefore each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to his neighbor, for we are all members of one body." 1 Peter 4:10 through 11 says, "Each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others, faithfully administering God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, he should do it as one speaking the very words of God. We urge you, brothers, warn those who are idle, encourage the timid, help the weak, be patient with everyone." That's 1 Thessalonians 5:14. Proverbs 13:18 says, "He who ignores discipline comes to poverty and shame, but whoever heeds correction is honored." Proverbs 9:8 through 9 says, "Do not rebuke a mocker, or he will hate you. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love you. Instruct a wise man, and he will be wiser still. Teach a righteous man, and he will add to his learning." Galatians 6:1 says, "Brothers, if someone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual should restore him gently." Proverbs 15:32 says, "He who ignores discipline despises himself, but whoever heeds correction gains understanding." Luke 17:3 says, "If your brother sins, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him." And finally, 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, "Therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing." So, as you can see, the Bible says a lot about our responsibility to give feedback to one another. Now, as we kind of reflect on these scriptures and think about the concept of giving and receiving feedback, take a look at the screen, and there's a prompt that will get your discussion going. Hey, welcome back. Hopefully you had a great opportunity to share with one another some of those feedback experiences, and you can learn from one another on those. Now, I want to go right into some stuff Cloud and Townsend have to say about the benefits of seeing ourselves as others do. Because really, if we want to make this work, we really have to buy into this idea that God's for me, that other people are for me, and that there's really a benefit to being able to give and receive feedback. All right, the first thing, groups observe so much. Okay, what do we mean? I want to go right to Cloud Townsend. They say this, in a good group, we lay ourselves open for observation to varying degrees. Your group members should see it as their task to understand what the rest of the group sees about them regarding. And I love this list: feelings, attitudes, values, and spirituality, behaviors, patterns, self-destructiveness, weaknesses, needs, and pain, limitations, pride, arrogance, and sinfulness, talents and abilities, communication, and relational styles. All right, a lot of things that we can observe, a lot of things that we can work on to really help each other out with this. All right, groups, kind of as this list alluded to, groups recognize our gifts. All right, sometimes there's folks in groups that really maybe have some hidden talents and some buried gifts that the group can really help bring out and develop those things. Third, groups help correct our faults. Okay, a lot of times we may not see patterns. We may not be able to identify those things in us. And we'll talk a little bit later about how groups can actually be helpful in that process. Not beating each other over the head, not just simply saying try harder, but there's really some processes that we can go through that can be helpful. And really this fourth one's important. Groups help match self-image to reality. All right, we're all about the truth. And really, when we're in a small group, when we're around safe people, those people around us can see things, can help us really get our self-image closer to what reality says that we are. Now, for these things to occur, obviously, we have to have an environment that's safe. We have to really get to know each other and really be open to receive as well as give feedback. And when we have the right kind of environment, we really get enough data points that we can speak truth into these different situations. Let's talk about some tips for both giving and receiving feedback. All right. Number one, we're going to start with grace. Okay. In some way, as we're talking with this person, now if we're doing a little activity, we may not have to do this, but just in general, I always want to communicate, hey, I'm for you. I'm going to start with grace. I may notice something really positive about that person, especially if I'm going to give them maybe some challenging feedback to hear. But I always want to communicate, hey, I'm for you. I care about you. I want what's best for you. And if we can accompany that with maybe some specific words of praise, that's a good thing too. Number two, I want to use I, not you statements. All right. Hey, I've noticed this. I've observed this. Okay. I over time, I've kind of seen this pattern. But start with I because you're the observer when you give. All right. Number three, I want let's be concrete and specific. Okay, a lot of times we get ourselves in trouble and we may not be heard the right way when we give kind of broad generalizations about behavior. We want to be pretty specific about the type of feedback that we're going to give. Hey, when we were at the meeting the other day, I noticed that blank, and I want to identify that particular pattern. All right. Now on the receiving end, there are also some tips. Okay. So we want to be able to both give and receive feedback. Okay. Again, this whole theological, biblical basis for feedback is going to be important to keep in mind. And just as I want to start with grace when I give it, I want to remember grace when I receive it. Okay. I want to remember that person is for me, that God's for me, that person has my best interest at heart. I want to remember that feedback is a gift. All right. So it's really up to me to decide how to receive, what to do with that gift. But all feedback, even if it's not completely accurate, can be a gift. Number two, don't be defensive. All right. Even if as I receive this feedback, I may think that person is is 80% off, I want to hold off on that and just receive and really sit with that feedback. All right. At the same time, though, I can ask clarifying questions. Okay, if the person giving the feedback isn't very concrete, isn't very specific, it's a great say, hey, help me understand this a little bit better. Can you give me an example of a time when you've seen this? So that'll help with the feedback. And then finally, I want to be thankful. I want to be thankful for that feedback because I think there are some people that really enjoy giving feedback, but for the most part, it's difficult for a lot of personality types to actually confront, actually bring up some challenging, difficult to give pieces of feedback. So we kind of want to end with, hey, I appreciate that you've shared this with me. I know that you're for me, and I'm really thankful. So here's a few concrete tips for both giving and receiving feedback. So you've got a prompt on your screen that'll help you process this. All right, now let's do a little practice with feedback here. Week 4, we're just going to take a little baby step with feedback. I'm going to give you like an advanced step if you want to take that. But we'll start off with just an easy baby step in giving feedback. So we'll start off with really the positives. So keep in mind when we give feedback, it can be something positive or it can be something negative. We can grow through both. Probably a little bit easier to start with the positive. So here's your task. Okay, I want you to answer this question, and you can do this really for everybody in your group. If you got a really large group, you might want to break down into smaller groups. Also have the potential to break up into some same gender groups if you'd like, or if you feel comfortable, you can keep the whole group together. It's really kind of about the culture you've tried to establish and really the size and comfort level of your group. But here's your basic question. What is one character trait, gift, quality that you appreciate about me? Not about me, myself, but about that person in the group. So what's that one positive thing, character trait, gift, quality that you appreciate about that person? And then give a specific example of that. And we'll just start there as kind of a baby step towards giving feedback. Now, if you're ready, you can go on to the next step. And that's to look at something that's maybe a little bit more challenging. Maybe your group's been together for a bit and you've got to know each other pretty well. This might be your step. Okay, what is one pattern that you observe in somebody that you think could use some improvement? All right, I give you the option. You could self-identify and say, hey, here's one thing I would like to improve upon in myself. Here's one thing I see as maybe an obstacle to my spiritual growth. And then that person could share a little bit and then get feedback as we go. Or it could be something that people in the group observe. So if you're ready, take that tougher step. Probably easier for you to just take that baby step, but I'll leave it up to you. So let's practice giving some feedback. All right, hey, welcome back. So how did that feedback exercise go? If you took that baby step and you just kind of focused on the positives, great. Maybe you have kind of a kumbaya moment that you want to kind of reflect on. Maybe you got into some more challenging territory. Whatever the case, it's kind of up to you. But if you need a minute to kind of process how that went, don't shy away from that and take advantage maybe of a spirit-led moment here. But especially if you got into some challenging territory, you might need just a quick reminder about grace plus truth plus time, and this fundamental idea that God is for me, God is for you, I'm for you, you're for me, and we're for each other as a group, and we're ultimately here to be kind of instruments of God's grace and really help one another draw closer to Christ. So you might want to take a minute and acknowledge that. And then as you shift into kind of whatever time you have left to kind of give updates on personal ministry, what's God doing through you, maybe individually, what's your group doing? Heard a cool story about some groups that have really join forces and kind of work together and use some different gifts for a specific ministry. And then as you kind of wrap up with prayer, there might be something from that feedback exercise that actually triggers some specific prayer time. So, hey, way to go. Hope you've had a great time kind of learning about feedback and getting some practice. So we'll see you next week.